Happy Friday, Earlhamites. As I record this message, I'm thinking about all the familiar faces who will soon be arriving on campus for the start of the spring term. I cannot wait to see all of you on campus when classes begin again on February 1st. It's been a long break, longer than we have had in the past. Although some of you have had J-term classes, and I'm eager to hear how that went, both from the students and from the faculty. Students and parents should have received emails earlier this week from Bonita Washington Lacey, our Dean of Students and Vice President for Student Life. Please, first of all, let us know if you didn't receive that, and please read Bonita's email carefully. Even though many of our move-in procedures and safety protocols are the same as they were in the fall, some of them have been changed. They've been updated to improve our procedures while making sure that we comply with the most recent local, state, and CDC guidelines. Please remember, this is extra important. Students should be scheduling a COVID-19 test as soon as possible so that you can bring a negative test result with you when you come to move in. Testing should be completed within 10 days of arriving on campus. Employees also must be tested between January 25th and February 1st. And the results should be submitted on the college's coronavirus website. If you remember, we'll test again just as we did last term. We will test again 2 weeks later. I want to ask you all to be sure to continue to be vigilant. You've done such a good job. While Wayne County's positivity rate remains below the state's average, we are all still at risk until the vaccine becomes widely available. We'll continue to monitor the situation closely, especially as we all have heard a more contagious strain of the virus it has now been reported in the United States. So keep up this really challenging work of keeping yourself and the people you care about safe and healthy. And let's hold on till we can get vaccines, which we have been hearing as soon as March or April. One very big difference between the fall and the spring terms is the resumption of intercollegiate athletics. So men's and women's basketball, volleyball, indoor track and field have either they've already begun or they're expected to begin their season soon, with spring sports commencing in the months ahead. Many of you have asked why sports are resuming, given the high rates of coronavirus that we still have, and yet other forms of college-sponsored travel have not yet been allowed to resume. And that is a totally legitimate question to ask, and there's not really a simple answer, but I'll share why I think we're making the right decision around this. You probably, I assume everyone knows that we're part of an athletics conference, the Heartland Collegiate Athletics Conference. And we, all decisions are made by majority vote, and then we are expected to go along with that. And if we don't, we're at risk of being removed from the conference. So once those decisions are made, we do everything we can to stick with that. Some of us in the conference tend to be a bit more conservative about our response to the to COVID than others. And I think that's just part of what you see all the way across the United States, the variants and how seriously people take it. Anyway, in recent weeks, I've met with the presidents from the Heartland Collegiate Athletics Conference, and those presidents shared a strong preference at their colleges to resume competitive play. the one thing to remember is that athletes only have a short period of time to compete at the collegiate level, and they've already lost a year. It's just really been very hard for them. So we have all agreed to hold our coaches and athletes to a very strict set of safety protocols, many that exceed what our local and state health departments require, and also what the NCAA requires. I just met with our coaches the other day, and they confirmed for me once again how committed they are to protecting the health and safety of not only our student athletes, but the rest of the campus community. They are really on top of things. Our student athletes are being tested weekly using the most reliable of the tests, a PCR test. And they also go through a battery of daily health checks, far more than the general campus population. A positive test by either an Earlham student athlete or a student athlete on a team preparing to come to our campus will result in an immediate cancellation of that contest, followed by contact tracing, quarantine, and another later round of testing. In accordance with the NCAA directives, all student athletes who test positive for COVID-19 must also complete cardiac testing upon their return to full health before they're allowed to return to their teams. That's because we've seen some heart damage in people who've had COVID-19. We do not want that to happen to our athletes. And again, part of the reason we're excited for the vaccine to get here. Unlike in past years where a normal athletic season might include conference and non-conference events, all games will take place within conference this year against only HCAC schools, which are located in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. And also there will be no overnight travel to games. No spectators are going to be allowed in the stands at the games at this point, but the HCAC Council of Presidents, including me, will have a discussion again on February 3rd to see, depending on the rates of the positivity rates we're seeing, whether we are yet able to allow spectators. But at this point, there are no spectators allowed. This situation will change, of course. Everything changes right now. So our continued participation in athletics this year is contingent on everyone's cooperation and their commitment to safety in order for us to be able to be successful and have a great athletic season. And by the way, so people were asking, well, why this and not this? We're working right now on protocols that would allow student faculty research on campus this summer. We'll be getting that out to the community as soon as the group working on that has cleared it up. Okay, enough of that. Moving on, just wanted to say a little bit more about our Ivy Tech partnership. As I mentioned in my previous update, you heard we've reached articulation agreements with Ivy Tech Community College so that their graduates for 6 different academic programs, so that their graduates can easily transfer to Earlham, earn a Bachelor of Arts degree in, as I said, 6 of our academic programs. We are very keen to grow this program to other majors and also to work with community colleges. We'll start next in Ohio. Those are separate entities rather than in Indiana. We have Ivy Tech. Anyway, that's we just are really wanting to make it easier for motivated students from our region to enroll and receive an Earlham education. These articulation agreements with Ivy Tech support our initiative to increase enrollments from the Midwest. We're calling that our Regional Recruitment Initiative. That initiative's been supported by gifts from the Lilly Foundation and also Alan and Peg Scantlin, Earlham alumni. It also supports our commitment to make Earlham a more diverse and inclusive college, because we know that more first-generation students, more low-income students, and more students of color begin their higher education at a community college. And we want those students to feel that Earlham would be a great place to take the next step in their higher education journey. This is why I've been talking about this and pressing on this for since my interview, so a couple of years ago. We received local and regional press for this great news. Both the Palladium Item, our local newspaper, and Inside Indiana Business carried stories about it. And Indiana Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch shared this news on her social media channels last week. I appreciated the Pal Item article, but I have to say I was a little disappointed that they didn't quote me when I said that these agreements were due to the hard work of James Logan, our interim dean of faculty, and Nate Eastman, associate professor of English, and most importantly, that this was a department by department, professor by professor slog, lots of detail work to ensure that Ivy Tech graduates could take the classes they need to graduate from Earlham in 2 years. I'm so grateful to everyone at Earlham and everyone at Ivy Tech also that made this happen. Really fantastic. This is, as I think I mentioned before, we are breaking new ground for national liberal arts colleges across the country who, like us, recruit across all 50 states and dozens of countries around the world. These kinds of articulation agreements are not common, but they should be. And I'm thrilled that Earlham is among the first to do so. And I'm also very happy that the news of our agreement with Ivy Tech has been met with so much enthusiasm among our alumni and all of the people living in our local community. That was just great. We're really thrilled to be working with Ivy Tech in this way and very eager to welcome their graduates to our campus. Okay, I want to share a little good news. That was all good news, of course. I want to congratulate our students, Mark Gendro, Kayla Newman, Winnie Nguyen, and Denise Bergdalt for advancing to the regional round of the Association for Supply Chain Management Case Competition, which is sponsored by Deloitte Consulting LLP. This competition takes place virtually on February 20th. That is really great. This is actually the second time in 3 years that an Earlham team has advanced to the regional competition. And you won't be surprised to know that it is Seth Pallas, our associate professor of global management, who is leading this. And he shared with me that teams from other schools who've advanced to the regionals all have a dedicated college of business, an entire college of business. So this truly speaks to the quality of our faculty and the quality of our students. Congratulations once again to that team. Second bit of good news, many of you know Lynn Clark, who is an emeritus professor of philosophy at Earlham and served as dean of faculty and provost, among other service, during his long history of teaching and service to Earlham. Lynn has generously accepted my request to serve as interim dean of the Earlham School of Religion and help lead the search for a permanent dean. Yesterday, Lynn, Ray Onco, Benito Washington Lacey, and I met with ESR students who are concerned about ESR's future. Turnover of a dean is always a worrying time for students and for faculty, actually. And I hope that after that meeting that the students felt as positive as I did. You can really hear in Lynn's voice his commitment to helping ESR survive and thrive during what, as I said, is always a difficult transition. Thank you, Lynn. I also wanted to share that I have joined the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. I was invited by the former president of Guilford and was honored to be invited and accepted. This organization is an alliance of American colleges and university leaders dedicated to increasing public understanding of how immigration policies and practices impact our students, our campuses, and our communities. We support policies that create a welcoming environment for immigrant, undocumented, and international students on our campuses. I'm hopeful that joining this alliance will help us find more ways to support Earlham's international students and welcome more international students who are such an incredibly special and important part of our community. Now I want to talk about the inauguration very briefly. I hope you had an opportunity to watch the inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris on Wednesday, which took place just 1 week after that terrible attack on the Capitol building. A Biden presidency will certainly not be met with enthusiasm by everyone in our nation, and really, honestly, not even on our campus. And we remain a nation divided in this regard. But I am inspired by the unprecedented diversity of his team, by the strong professional expertise and experience of his appointments, and by the opportunity to witness the first woman and the first woman of color to become the nation's vice president. And also, I was very moved by the president's promise to be a leader for all Americans, those who voted for him and those who did not. As I said last week, I believe that an Earlham education uniquely prepares students for the difficult conversations that democracy demands of all of us. But we have to be willing to work together, to learn from one another, and discern how all of us can help heal this terrible wound to our democracy and our nation. I don't think it's possible to bring everyone together. And in fact, that was one of the things I appreciated about Joe Biden's speech. He said, it's going to take as many of us as are able to start healing this divide. And so we have a really important role to play in this. This has been a longer message than most. Thank you for sticking with me. And last thing, as always, I want to just urge you to keep making the world a better place, Earlhamites. And remember that the world needs Earlhamites now more than it ever did. Bye-bye.